So what is the principle? The choice between being a divine and demoniac is basically obeying the words of Krishna, is as simple as that. That's the essence given in this particular chapter. That And that is elaborated in the Bhagavatam through the life of Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu. And the more we understand the details of their life, the essence that we need to get from that is like we all have desires and we all have inclinations. Some are good, some are not so good. Or to be clear, it is not healthy for one's spiritual life. It does not bring us closer to Krishna. So that is called as uti, proclivities. So we all have this combination. What are we going to nourish? Based on that, we will become such an entity. And that is why here Prahlad Maharaj and Parikshit Maharaj is in the same family. They are not from two contrasting backgrounds. They are from the same background in terms of they are both from demoniac families. However, the good association that Prahlad Maharaj received helped him actually become inclined towards devotional service. It's not that Hiranyakashipu did not have an opportunity to get good association. He had all the opportunity if he wanted, but he consciously chose not to listen to. So that gradually led him to down the path of being a complete demon. And same for born to that father and born in that family, race, or ethnicity, whatever we call. However, Prahlad Maharaj's choices gradually makes him actually take a contrasting path. And if you think of this chapter through the life of Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu, you can see how this chapter unfolds so beautifully in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So then this chapter also becomes much more easy to understand when we see it through the lens of Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu. The divine qualities are explained in the first three verses, and then the demoniac qualities are Krishna begins to explain about them. And he also speaks about the activities of the demoniac and the consequences of demoniac activities, and what is the choice that we all have, and how can we actually choose to be divine and not demonic. So that is all is discussed in this chapter. So we did discuss these things, so I'm just going to close up with them. So in these 9 verses, we spoke about the wealth of the divine, which is the 3 verses in which Krishna described the divine qualities. And the rest of the section is basically describing the traits and the natures of the demoniac. So the traits of the demoniac is given in terms of qualities that one actually exhibits. It's not said, oh, what kind of which part of the world one is born, or what kind of race or ethnicity or gender or bodily identification. That is not given here. It's very clearly mentioned what is the nature of the demoniac is pride, arrogance, anger, harshness, and ignorance. So to the degree one actually has those things, to those degrees we have. So the divine can become demoniac, the demoniac can become divine. The choice is always there. It's based on the qualities we choose to nourish in us. And the 2 paths of nature is, of course, Krishna is explaining how the divine leads to the liberation, the demoniac leads to bondage within material world. And he continues to explain that there are 2 kinds of beings. And he specifically, Arjuna feels a little unsettled after hearing these 2 verses 4 and 5. So he is saying, oh, there are 2 kinds of creations, but you are actually of the first kind, the divine. So do not worry, Arjuna, because he feels I'm going to fight. In the fight, I have to be angry, I have to be harsh, I have to kill people. What do you speak of? What do you speak of harshness? He has to literally kill people. So he's thinking, oh, that means I have to become demoniac. Is that what will, and it will lead to the bondage to material life. So why is then Krishna actually is asking me to do such thing? That's why in the 5th verse he says Krishna consoles Arjuna that he is born with divine nature, then he is of divine nature, so he does not need to worry. So then Krishna specifically speaks in the verse 7, 8, and 9 the nature of the demoniac. So what kind of nature they have and what is their vision of life? That's more important actually. You can sometimes find even well-behaved people who are atheistic. It is nice. However, the foundation of their understanding is the world has no other purpose than just fulfilling my desires. And that's the seed from which it can take one to the extent what Hiranyakashipu actually embodies. Scriptures usually explain the extremes so that it becomes very easy for us to grasp the principle. So in the Bhagavatam, the extreme is one is Prahlad, the other one is Hiranyakashipu. And we are somewhere in between. We are in the middle of the spectrum. We're sometimes like this, sometimes like that. But the scriptures usually explain the extremes of it in the sense the best of both worlds to see a clear, so that we are able to see a clear contrast, and we can see the dangers of going down the line of the negative side, how much extent it can take one. And we can see that in this world all the time. All you have to do is open your phone, go to YouTube and search for news, or open a news portal or anything like that. You will see the demonic nature being acted out very much in this world. Right, people are shooting, or people are violating, or people are what do you call, like recently I think there was a high profile robbery. So all these kind of things are going around all of us all the time. So why Krishna is explaining this chapter, we did discuss that. So we will start with the verse 4. I hope you are able to see the screen.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can.
Just a minute. Let's open the chat. Anyone wants to share anything until now? Is there anything to ask, or anything to share? Please feel free. So if you have the Bhagavad Gita, you can take it for reference. This is chapter 16 and verse 4. Dambodharpo vimanascha krodha parushamevacha agyanam cha abhijatasya partha sampadama surim. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demoniac nature, O son of Pritha. Purport: in this verse, the royal road to hell is described. The demoniac want to make a show of religion and advancement in spiritual science, although they do not follow the principles. They're always arrogant or proud in possessing some type of education or so much wealth. They desire to be worshipped by others and demand respectability, although they do not command respect. Over trifles, they become very angry and speak harshly, not gently. They do not know what should be done and what should not be done. They do everything whimsically according to their own desire, and they do not recognize any authority. These demoniac qualities are taken on by them from the beginning of their bodies in the wombs of their mothers, and as they grow, they manifest all these inauspicious qualities. So the idea is, we all might be born with certain level of combination of modes based on our previous karma. However, if we begin to take spiritual education, that default could be actually changed. That's why Prahlad's story, the spiritual knowledge is offered in the womb, and that's what actually transforms him. So the idea is, yeah, we all have a baggage. We come with a certain combination of modes. However, by taking it to the process of bhakti, we'll be able to change that default configuration. If you ever buy any device like a network router or all of these things, they come with a certain configuration, but you would have to adjust it according to what serves you. So similarly, the mark of the demoniac in general is pride, arrogance, anger, harsh speech, and ignorance. And we probably are born into certain situations in which people around us are like that. So we have picked up that kind of a behavior, or we come with such a personal baggage. So still, it could be actually transformed. But if a person just goes about it as if it's perfect, then it can lead them to become more and more away from their original nature. A demonic person wants to look spiritual, but does not like authority. Here means, I think these are big topics. Ego replaces surrender. It's very hard today to tell anyone what is right, because now the language itself is so vague. I feel sometimes bad to call, like, even the word, oh, this is bad, this is demoniac. Like, if you see Prabhupada's lectures, he's like very clear, like, this is demoniac, and this is right, this is wrong. So it's very hard when you speak to New Yorkers, when you say this is bad or this is wrong. So then everyone, there is the truth, there is truth, and there is your truth and my truth. So there, it just like gets like more and more nuanced. Yes, nuances are a sign of an advanced culture. Still, we can never do away with the compasses in showing a direction. So the idea of a compass is to show us a direction. The scripture is like a compass. So it shows us the true north. So then the rest of the directions are not true north. You cannot say my north. There is a true north for every one of us commonly. So there are natural laws, which is, which is cosmic order. So I cannot say my true north in the sense of my north direction is different from it. There is a cosmic order, and it is common to all of us. So there are cosmic truths and value systems which are actually universally applicable to everyone. In general, pride, arrogance, and anger, these things are considered the mark of the demoniac. However, as clearly, if you see, Arjuna is going to use his anger in order to establish goodness in the world. So that is not considered as demoniac. So that's why Krishna in the next verse will clarify that it's not that anger itself as a quality is bad, how it is being used. If it is used for personal, say, aggrandizement or like personal selfishness, if it is born, basically, if it is an impulse, if it's a reaction, if it's not a response, then it is a problem. So that's why here Prabhupada is very clearly saying that the nature of demonic, the first one is like, so the person wants to look spiritual but does not follow it, and acting whimsically without scriptural regulations. And this is the clear road to ruin. So Prabhupada says the demoniac want to make a show of religion and advancement in spiritual science, although they do not follow the principles. Even if you are coming from a culture where there is rampant spirituality or spiritual culture, like say for example India, still there is a lot of show. People don't really go into the essence of why they're doing what they're doing. They want to be seen as religious people, and they may do various like rituals and all charity and all of those stuff to actually show to the world and to themselves. Of course, we can say people are only doing it for show, but there is a strong element of wanting to look. I mean, I'm very sorry to say, like, if you have some of you, I'm not sure if you have seen in India, there are seasons. There is a season of Kali Puja, there is season of Ganesh Chaturthi, there's seasons, certain major festivals come, especially this Ganesh Chaturthi is around the birthday of Lord Ganesh. It's a very huge festival in many parts of India, but especially I've seen it in Mumbai. There would be no place to step your foot on the streets, especially like Lower Parel and all these places where it's very famous. I have honestly seen even in the particular apartment complex that I was living, they would have a Ganesh, and the whole thing is about who makes the bigger offering, who does the bigger puja, and how it is seen in the socially, like whose Ganesh is bigger, who gets more crowd. So it is like very very externals, very much about externals, and the kind of songs they'll be playing will have nothing to do with Ganesh, and people will be like drinking and dancing. So it's like coming from South India, it was like a nightmare. Like, why? Means, what is this? Like, what kind of spiritual culture is this? Because where people, the whole city comes to a halt on certain days when they are doing those worships. The whole city, everyone is out on the street, dressed well, dancing, and there is music and everything. But there is very little about spirituality or devotion, very little, if at all there is any. So this show of religion and advancement in spiritual science or interest is there, but in practice it may not be very clear. They may not have a spiritual practice which really reforms their default motives. There is a very strong shadow of pride in ritualistic performances, and this part you can see in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the character of Daksha. Daksha arranges a huge yajna and he invites everyone. But when Lord Shiva is there, he just disrespects him. He just outright disrespects Lord Shiva. So there's a strong sense of pride. So ego speaks loudly, and we can see it in the character of Daksha. And he does not listen to anybody. He does not listen to Brahmaji, who's his father. And because of his pride, his life becomes a complete chaos. If you want to read more story, read Bhagavatam Canto 4, the first few chapters of Sati's life. You will see how, because of his pride, you can just read the translations and you can see this in the life of Daksha. Just because pride enters into his life, there's complete chaos in his life. His life gets completely turned upside down. Peace leaves. So and that's what is we can see that pride makes us very artificial. However much the world gives us, it's never sufficient. It's never enough. However much people respect us, however much people take care of us, it's never enough when someone has pride. At all circumstances, at all times, they have to be the center. And it's quite tiring for themselves and for others. It is never possible. Even if that happens in a very close relationship, like a marital relationship, it becomes even harder actually. You become like high and dry, like you are left to completely like kind of exhausted to constantly reinforce the ego of this other individual. So it is not just social interactions, but even within family, if there is a strong need for like constantly being the center of everything that is happening, then it becomes very hard to actually maintain that relationship. It becomes very difficult. Humility makes us real, and that's why Krishna is comparing these two natures and the two destinations that are uh, given in the next verse. Daivi sampad vimokshaya nibandaya asuri mata mashucha sampadam daivi abhijato asi pandava. The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demoniac qualities make for bondage. So he's showing how these two lead to complete different destinations. Do not worry, O son of Pandu, you are born with divine qualities. So Prabhupada also very clearly explains in this particular purport that why specifically Krishna is addressing Arjuna, do not worry. Mashucha. This comes later in the 18th verse also. Mashucha. Do not worry, Arjuna. You are in a different situation. So here, that's why he is encouraging. Uh, for you as a Kshatriya military man, shooting arrows at the enemy is not demoniac, it's duty. So there was absolutely no cause for Arjuna to lament because he is performing his duties under the proper guidance. So, and Prabhupada clearly writes, anyone who performs the regulative principles of the different orders of life is transcendently situated. As long as they are acting according to the principles of the scripture and with the consciousness of offering it to the divine, then they are untouched by, they are not bounded by that particular action. So divine qualities lead to liberation, but the demoniac lead to bondage. And Krishna assures Arjuna very clearly, yes, you are on the divine side. Excuse me. I have to just make a very quick attend this call just for a second because someone is arriving for this event. So I just have to do a little thing. So I'm just pausing it. Just a minute. So the qualities lead to a destination. They have a clear repercussion. It's not that, oh, I'll be proud and there will be no result. There will be no repercussion to it. Mother Indra?
I wanted to ask you, and hopefully won't throw you off too much, but Bhishma and Drona are on the other side. Can you remind us how that is, why they chose that side,
Mhm.
even though they know that
It's
it's
currently we are exploring that in the Bhagavatam discussions I'm having on Sunday mornings. There are multiple things. Basically, Krishna is also using such great people to make points like, even if you're as great as Drona or as great as Bhishma, who has never lost a battle and who's known as like such a great warrior, still, if you take to the wrong side, you won't be able to actually eventually win. So it's not just the qualities, that just because you're a good person does not mean you can go against God or the principles of the religion. So he is using
yes,
them
but
to teach us a particular example, but they are not as affected like Duryodhana. They go through some pain for making that choice. However, Bhishma has a lot more layers actually that is explored in the Bhagavatam. He has Virya Rasa and he is there to enjoy the rasa of fighting with the Lord. So you can be on the same side and fight with the Lord. So you have to be on the opposing side to be able to fight with the Lord. And they have a complete different thing going on between them. So it's on another level. But Mahabharata range of understanding is like to show that even if you're as great as Bhishma, if you take to the side of adharma, which is irreligiousness, still you won't be able to win.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
So doing your so in general this particular verse's main focus is like if you're acting under the scriptural guidance, it is considered as divine. But there are details. It's not as simple as that. And that's why here Krishna is clearly saying, okay, for a Kshatriya, it does not mean all these qualities of anger and other things, because it is being engaged within their duties under guidance. That's okay. In fact, he is clearly saying it's transcendental. So the divine qualities naturally lift us up. The demonic qualities pull us down, and the direction we choose shapes our destiny. So it's not without any repercussions because we are our choices. There is a direct correlation to it. And freedom without self control, which is usually very much desired in this age, is merely another form of bondage. We think of free love and I want to do whatever I want to do. I don't like anyone telling me anything. So that kind of an absolute understanding of freedom is very flawed in that sense. The same person will be very unhappy if a person breaks their signal, traffic signal, because we expect others to follow the rules. We think of just complete freedom. I can just do whatever I want. But the moment another person's freedom infringes our freedom, we will be yelling and we'll be asking who's the one who's managing, like who's the one who's ruling this place, or like kind of who's the president, who's the prime minister, who's the mayor, who's the governor, where is law enforcement. We'll immediately cry for help. So it sounds very romantic. I'll do whatever I want and be completely free. But the moment others similar such freedom, desire for freedom, infringes our own freedom, there will be a problem. That's why society has a certain minimal freedom for everyone. You have freedom, but your freedom cannot in certain ways infringe another person's freedom. So freedom without self-control, similarly, the cosmic order is, if we lose our sense control, if we just think I'll do whatever I want in this world, we will be suffering. There is a cosmic order. So freedom without self-control becomes a clear form of bondage. The very freedom that those people are dreaming about will be taken away. And Prabhupada is very clearly saying one who performs their prescribed duty under scriptural guidance is transcendental. Basically, the reactions to one's actions is nullified. And the sixth verse is again speaking about the two kinds of beings. And there is divine and there is demoniac. And Krishna is very clearly saying, please listen to this carefully. He's going to explain it in the word. What are they and what is their special attitudes of being a demoniac? That he's going to explain in 7, 8, and 9. So the basic underlying principle, Prabhupada says, the basic underlying principles is one accepts the scriptures, the other one actually rejects the scriptures. That's a baseline thing. Because scriptures are directly the instructions of the Supreme Lord. So there are two such frequencies in life, the divine frequency and the demoniac frequency. What are we doing through sadhana every day is we are trying to tune into that higher frequency. We may have a certain nature. If we don't control it, it can actually bring us down. So the whole idea of spiritual life is we try to actually tune into that higher frequency on a daily basis. So pride and attachment, as Krishna says earlier, it just blocks the path. As he's told in the first verse, humility is a divine quality and it opens the path. So the first quality of a demoniac is there is no sense of right and wrong. Sounds like American left wing extremist. It's such a hard thing. So it's again, it can sound very harsh, but when people in the name of being very liberal, when they go to the extent of erasing what is right and wrong, then also the society actually falls apart. You see a strong rise of right wing all over the world because traditionally for the last 100 years people have been moving away from orthodox values, which had its own problems. So they went to the other extreme of completely going to the place where there is absolutely no right or wrong. Whatever I feel like is right. So they have come to the other extreme. So the world is in a balancing act. Now there is like again a return to orthodox values. That's the world cycle. History will always be repeating like this. If you go through the newspapers after 200 years, probably it will be the very same. The next 100 years will be like this, and the following 100 years will be again back to liberal, the extreme liberal values. So the world is always like that pendulum. It goes towards them. Sometimes for a few generations it goes towards this side and it becomes too much. Then the world actually rises up and fights against it and the world goes towards the other direction. So it's always a pendulum. And here the sense of right and wrong we are speaking is based upon the scriptural values. It's not just mundane moral values or social values. It's not driving in the right side is right or driving on the left side is right. Each culture is different. Each country you go could be different. We're not speaking about that alone. We're speaking about values which are actually liberating and values which may bind us to this material world. So that's what we are exactly referring to. And the values, the people who actually hold on to the values that degrades the soul, degrades the living entity to lower forms of life, that's considered demonic. But those people may think, huh, who is there to control? I do. There is no sense of right and wrong because there is no authority. I don't believe in an authority. So that is the very attitude which you will see it in the next verse, the eighth verse also, that there is a complete godless worldview. Why we don't have a sense of right or wrong? Because there is no one who the hell can tell me what is right and wrong. I don't believe in any authority, especially the absolute authority of Godhead. So they say the world is unreal. You just live here once. Who knows after you die? Just enjoy life. Who has seen? Who knows? This is another thing. When you give a talk, sometimes in very yoga circles, or sometimes, so you can never make an absolute statement. Then people will say, "Who knows?" So their idea is nobody knows anything. Then why are we sitting together to discuss anything if no one knows anything? So God knows. And then if people say, "Who knows God exists?" So that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well as Bhakti Vinod Thakur, they both say, they clearly is like mentioned in the book called as Dashamula Tattva, the 10 foundational principles. The first thing is you accept the scriptures as the word of God. That means you accept the existence of God. If not, then thank you. We're not going to waste our time. That is the idea of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. This the first understanding, a common dialogue. If you have to have a dialogue, the first thing is, do you believe in God? No. Then you go to a different section. Okay, you don't believe in God, then let's speak about that. We're not going to speak about anything else. So once we have a common understanding that at least there is a God, then he says, okay, then there can be a particular religious discussion. Otherwise, the discussion goes into stops there. First, let's settle this. And if we agree to disagree, then good luck, go your way. I'm not going to waste my time. That is a very basic principle in this chapter. Also, the godless worldview is the worldview of a demoniac person. This world is unreal, without foundation, without God. Moreover, life is just meant for enjoyment. Life is made for enjoyment. Sounds like some Bollywood song lyrics. Life is just meant for enjoyment. So there is nothing else other than lust. So these are the we've been like these seeds are sown in our hearts through lyrics and songs and music and so many things. So the idea is like basically remove God, God from the picture. So as Prabhupada also writes, if you remove God from the picture, pleasure becomes the only goal. And imagine how different it's from animal society. If somebody just becomes an animal of pleasure, then they create havoc in the society. So restraint comes with authority. And if you just don't say, if you say you accept governmental authority because it serves your purpose, but you don't want to accept universal authority because you don't want to feel being controlled or helpless. So they see the universe as an accident. They reject Krishna's statement when he says, under my supervision. Maya adhyakshena prakriti suyate cha saracharam. Krishna says, under my supervision, the world is going on. They say, this is only a dream. And Prabhupada kills, then why the hell are you bent upon enjoying this dream? If this is just a dream, don't worry about it because it's just a dream. But you're so expert in enjoying this dream. That's what he says in the purport. If the Mayavadis call this world as a dream, but you are also very expert in enjoying this dream. So this godless worldview of world actually causes the problem. And as Shoemaker says, the modern tragedy is not ignorance, but arrogance, actually. There is knowledge without reverence. There is knowledge, but it has absolute no reverence. And you can see, if you deal with a typical teenager who's like a Gen Z, you can see sometimes they know more, but the attitude is very arrogant. So then it just is like too hard to deal with. And just imagine a whole culture being like that. So the modern tragedy is not ignorance, it's just outright arrogance. And what is the outcome of this? Holding such views, they become actually harmful, not to themselves, but to others and overall to the society. They do horrible, unbeneficial works, and they work against the world. Imagine people creating bioweapons and releasing chemical weapons and like engaging in a chemical warfare or like a bio warfare against another country. It's such horrible things. For what sake? For the sake of exploiting the resources of this world? That's all. So it's literally most of the corporates are engaged in the name of where they're very posh. They sound, oh, where do you work? I work in Meta. I work in Apple. I work in Google. Means, believe me, it's such, it just on the surface, it all looks so nice. I have all my gadgets are currently Apple, so I feel so bad saying that. But we are polluting the world. We are polluting the world. And you see their business models. Every year, why do you have to bring out a new model? If you had enough technology to make the camera 12 mbp or whatever, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to make it 40 mbp. In 1 year, you didn't have any groundbreaking innovation. It's such a cheating. In 1 year, there is absolutely no groundbreaking. If they want to, there is already, they are ready with what the technology that needs to be introduced in 18 and 19. They already have it. They don't release it because they have just found a new one and they want to give it to you. No, every year, why is there a new innovation? No, they already have things lined up until like iPhone 20. They're already working on 3-4 years ahead, and they won't give you, because then they have to introduce a new model and so much waste. And where is all these like the fine metals that we want comes from you're exploiting African countries, and you have cheap labor in other countries. So it's a very cool looking mobile which is just in my hand, and I said, wow, like you feel like, oh, I'm so updated and later, I'm so modern. But it just is a product of exploitation. We might have paid for it, but we cannot deny that most of these things are coming from an attitude of exploitation, and we get affected by it because we are also playing part in that particular cycle. So what is the time? It's 10:06. So godlessness leads to violence against humans and animals. It's as simple as that. And if you just go through what is the world culture today is doing, it's outright violence in the name of being polished. Inventions without dharma can destroy the world. That is what all the modern technology sometimes, beyond a certain point, without dharma for what? Everyone was writing mails. And today we have AI writing mails. I use it. I'm not saying I don't use it. It's just that's the only purpose. Of course, people are doing much more with AI. They're not just writing mails. Maybe someone dumb like me is just using for writing mails. People are using it for much more stronger things. But what the underlying attitude is, if it is godless, then it destroys the world eventually. So this verse is literally pointing towards that attitude, that when man forgets the supreme, he makes himself the center, and that's the beginning of chaos. And this is the picture of the modern reality. The more we have made ourselves center, removed the supreme from the center, it's just the beginning of chaos. Yeah, the godless equation is the modern civilization. So the more, if you remove purpose, if I say purpose of life is to actually awaken love for Krishna, if someone says, who knows? I'm like, okay. So then what's the purpose of life itself? But they won't have anything to offer other than enjoying. So when you remove the real purpose of life, then life feels empty. And denying the divine does not free us. It's blinding us. So without purpose, pleasure feels empty. And remove God, and all that's left in life is craving. Then that craving leads to so much, what do you call? Suffering. Complete dysfunctionality of the individual and the society. When craving becomes the God on the altar, then there is rampant exploitation everywhere. And that's what we have done collectively as a society. We have put craving on the altar. We have removed God from the altar. So the world is a reflection, appearing real. Basically, godlessness leads to demoniac tendencies individually and collectively. That's one thing for sure we can take from this section. And thank you. I'm not in a position to take questions today, and I'm rushing to another thing. I'm grateful. for your time and attention. If there is anything that you want to share quickly, please feel free.